Good evening and welcome to this week's episode of Sunday Night Live, your favorite automotive show where we talk about the issues that affect the customer experience at your store. Whether the front of the house, the back of the house, it doesn't really matter. Because the happier the people are with you, the more they come back for everything they need when they need it. And they will bring their entire tribe, family members, coworkers, neighbors, anybody and everybody. They will be singing your praises and bringing them to your store. And that's really the best form of advertising. And, the car business is kind of getting back to the way it was way back when, where you have to earn the sale again. And it's even more important to be on point. There are a few things that happened over the last few years. There are people that got into car situations that they really couldn't afford and should have had no business doing. And some of those people are going to be out of the market. And the other people, they bought cars that came standard with embalming fluid. So for them, it's going to be somewhat difficult to get out of them. So they're going to be in those cars for a little bit longer. So the people that come in, you really need to do a better job at not only taking care of them, but you need to do a better job of bringing them in, right? To just sit there and wait for them bus to show up isn't going to cut it anymore. And I'm extremely fortunate. I have a great network of friends, colleagues, and connections that come on here every week. My wife is sending me a text. She says, get in ship shape for spring. I like that, honey. That's good. So every week I bring on these people that they're either doing it now or have done it to share with you what they do to improve business. Real actionable items you can use in your stores tomorrow. So without any further ado, we've got George Nenni. He's the founder of Generations Digital. He and I worked together at Dominion Dealer Solutions. We had a great time working there. And I have Joe Thistle. He is in the store. He is the marketing director at a Chevrolet store. So welcome, gentlemen.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Introduce yourselves. Don't go past fifth grade because then it gets too long. And let everybody know who you are and how you get to this point.
Sure. I'll go first. George Nenni, Generations Digital. Started in the car business in '93. Family business. Did a startup called Dealer Specialties. Got very large and covered the country. My two older brothers sold that business to Trader Publishing. I stayed on and ran a bunch of businesses for them until I left to start Generations Digital. So we really try to make car dealers better consumers, smarter consumers of digital marketing through education, books, training, consulting, and most importantly, Looker Studio reporting and Google Analytics for reporting.
Excellent. Welcome, George. Joe.
Joe Thistle, and I'm currently the director of marketing at New Smyrna Chevy. And I have not been in the car business as long as George or Paul. I didn't start until May of 2000. And it was totally by accident. Didn't love the job that I had and went on monster.com. And that was how you found jobs back then. And I was in the Daytona area. So there were not a whole lot of, I was a programmer, funny enough, and got a job as a laser programmer at a company called DME, where we were doing direct mail. It was probably 6 months or so before I realized I was in the automotive industry. And we built a lot of the first service marketing products for dealers.
Uh-oh. I think Joe lost his connection, but he'll be back in a moment. This is a good point to put up my disclaimer. There are some people that will comment on the platform and we won't see it until afterwards because I have my phone set up here. I see some comments on the phone that are not on the main computer. All right, Joe is back.
Yeah, sorry, the internet went out just like that. But yes, I worked a lot with Southeast Toyota and AutoNation, spent 10 years at DME, built a lot of cool products, and then ended up getting into the marketing things and worked for a couple other vendors up until 2020 when COVID came, and then ended up going to work with a dealer here locally. Hadn't experienced the retail side of it still, and that part's been awesome. And it's a whole other view of the industry being on this side. So glad to help any way I can with my experience.
Well, welcome. You're coming up on your 25-year anniversary.
Yes, May 9th. I actually remember the very first day.
Wow. So you were a programmer, so you got with the program kind of quickly then, pun intended.
Yeah, there you go. The programmers didn't get paid as much as the sales and marketing side, so that's how I made the switch initially.
Well, I'm glad to have you in it. I like your content online. You're adding value to the car business, and that's what we try to do. You know, you give, and we help everybody because let's face it, we're just three guys talking about the car business tonight, right? But the more we help people, we're in that group of car guys or car people. So if we do a good thing, then they'll think other people in the car business do the same thing. So I'm going to just kind of go over the outline, what we're going to cover or hope to cover tonight. And then I'm going to go through some of the comments. Some comments appear on the platform, others appear on my phone, and they're not exactly the same. So just bear with us here. Things we're going to cover are Google My Business and Google Ads. Okay. Are you making the most of them? That's a very important thing to know because that's a platform that you can leverage. Some people spend a lot of money. Other people believe in organic. It's really up to you. There is no one right answer. The best answer is to leverage both sides. Next is local keywords and targeted campaigns. Targeted campaign is not the spray and pray crap I get in my inbox on a daily basis, stuff that has no relevance. Okay. And then, because you want to know, are you reaching the right customers? Why do something if it's not going to be effective? Google reviews and online reputation, the trust factor. We had a good time back when with, what was that, the Minion product? The reputation product at the time? Prime Response.
Prime Response.
Killer.
Way ahead of its time. I remember sitting in meetings where dealers were going like, oh, you know, we're a large group and we always compete. You know, this particular guy who just sold his group, except for one store, he had meetings and they always compared how they did. And this one GM was very happy with Prime because it brought him right to the forefront of where he needed to be. And last but not least, social media and digital advertising, what works and what doesn't. So that's a lot to cover. We may or may not have enough time depending on how talkative the group is tonight. So let me go through some of the comments and then we'll jump right into it. Michael Larkin says, worth attending. I've set my calendar. James Ebear, thank you for sharing. Thank you for attending, James. I don't know if you've ever been on my show before. And Nathan Williams is always looking forward to tonight's automotive goodies. Michael Larkin says, happy St. Patrick's Day, Paul, Joe, and George. We've got Wendy Reeves on. Oh, it's not St. Patrick's Day yet. That's tomorrow. So let me get out of character. It says, good evening, beautiful people. And Nathan Williams says, I must say, George looks good for his age. Wait a minute. What the hell is that supposed to mean? I'm probably older than George. I hope you're not.
I'm beyond the 6-0. Are you beyond the 6-0?
No. I'm scared of it though.
All righty then. I'm beyond that. Yeah, I'm beyond that. And that hit me hard when my wife said, you want to go to the movies? I said, sure, send me the movie thing. So she sends me the thing. And the first thing that smacks me is their senior policy on pricing. That hurt. John Fraser, Paul Meijer, what up, Fix Ops brother? Have a great show. And Shannon Nielsen, happy to be here tonight. Thank you. I don't think you've been on before either. And all right, there we are. So let's jump right into it. Google My Business and Google Ads. Google My Business is something you've wrote several books on, George.
Yes. Yep. Google My Business, Google Business Profile, local SEO. It's so important for every dealer to pay attention to, and really sort of obsess on if you're behind.
You know, I look at a lot of stores and not everybody leverages it properly. Not everybody fills out the information. But why don't you talk to us about some of the best practices and some of the things where you see people are kind of missing the boat?
Sure. I mean, if you want to, see the importance of Google My Business or Google Business Profile, just do a search in Google. Just look for any kind of product or service, whether you're looking for a plumber or sushi or an oil change. Just search for it. And if you say near me, or if you put your town, or even if you don't, chances are Google's going to return Google Business Profiles to you. Most likely they'll return a set of 3 of those to you. They call that the map pack. Or if you search for a business name, 100% of the time it's going to bring up their single Google Business Profile. And that's really compelling, right? Because that means that's really SEO. We're paying all this money for search engine optimization, but if we're searching within 7 to 10 miles of our business, Google My Business takes over. So we really have to pay attention to that, because now suddenly half of our SEO efforts really need to be placed toward Google Business Profile. And best practice is really, going in, making sure you have the right categories set up, and then making sure that you're really uploading 2 main pieces of content. One is photos, so owner photos. Once a Google Business Profile gets 20 owner photos, Google starts paying attention to it. And then online reviews. Now, you don't really upload online reviews, but you drive online reviews through one-on-one engagement with your happiest customers, asking them for 5-star reviews. And then, once you get to 20 reviews and 20 owner photos, then the profile starts kind of coming alive and getting visibility.
And then if you're beyond, I think it's 4.5 stars, then you become as a recommended, correct?
Yes.
4.5?
Yeah. I don't, the recommended is kind of a toggle I see on occasion, but I mean, the big trigger is being above 4 stars, because if you search for best, or you do any kind of conditional, like find me the best, or who's the leading provider, whatever, Google will not show anybody who has less than 4 stars. So that 4-star filter gets kicked on.
Now, as a dealership, we're really 3 businesses in one. We're a sales department, we're a service department, and we're a parts department. There's a certain benefit, right, to developing all 3, because doesn't that drive more traffic?
Absolutely. I mean, really, the biggest opportunity with Google Business Profile is around fixed ops. The sales side once you configure it properly, the sales side takes care of itself. I mean, you want to drive reviews, you want to drive owner photos, but the service side needs regular kind of work, where Google will go out and make suggestions to you to add services, and you need to sort of curate those. Say yes to the appropriate fixed ops ones, and say no to the ones that don't apply. So it's kind of confusing, but there's these things called services, and they live underneath categories. So once you choose auto repair shop as a category, for instance, for your service profile, Google will then begin suggesting dozens and dozens of services, and they'll show those to you in the services section of GBP. If you're listening to me right now, go in your service GBP and click on the services button, and you'll see them. And it will have a choice of either okay or edit. Don't say okay. Go in and edit those, and only say yes to the ones that are fixed ops related. If it has things like leasing or financing or sales related terms, say no to those, because you're really educating Google when to pull up the fixed ops listing versus when to pull up the sales listing. I know that's a lot.
Yeah, but everybody absorbs this like a freaking sponge, man.
I'm over here taking notes, George.
So Joe, are you involved with that side of it as well?
Yeah, and so it's funny, like the very first thing I did was read George's books when I started. So it was Google Business Profile is the newer one, right? And then Google My Business. So I have both of his books. And then that first time the books came out, I went and did everything he said. And now I'm remembering we don't have any. I've got to go and upload some owner photos. So I put that down on my list to do tomorrow.
Actionable items.
Service stuff is all there. All those individual services, we've got all that added as categories. And yeah, that part's huge, right? Because every time someone looks for us, we want to be there. And the reviews, we've got a 4.3, and that's funny. I was going through that yesterday, going through our comments and the reviews, and you get 25 5-star reviews in a row, and then there's one person. This place is it's always about price, right? So those are the reviews, the negative reviews, the 1-star. It costs too much, and there's no making some people happy. Is basically what I find with the reviews. But luckily, we're above the 4.
Or bad service experiences. The funny thing with Google reviews is that some people get mad And other people appreciate the fact that they're getting free business advice, right? Not every Google review is right, but not every Google review is wrong either. You know, if you learn from it, they see you're human. And if you then make an earnest attempt at correcting the issue, you know, we had an issue where somebody, look, quite frankly, we didn't put the information out there maybe as good as it could have been. And as a result of that, we had a disgruntled customer. Well, we took care of the situation. And I said to my wife, I said, you know, why don't you ask her if she would redo the review? And she says, nope, I'm not going to do that. And guess what? All on her own, she was so happy at how we turned the situation around. She went out and she gave us an updated review, and it was a glowing review. It went from low to high just by doing the right thing. Now, when I look at Google reviews, it's such an important thing that most people really don't leverage it at all. If you count all of the customer-facing ROs and all of the cars that you sell, try this and look at how many Google reviews you've gotten within that same period of time. And what you'll find is typically you get as many as 1% of all of your customer paying clients, you know, your paying clients will actually give you a review online, because people aren't asking for it. We can't assume that they're going to do it. Everybody's busy. George, what's your feeling on if people search for particular items? Don't we want those items in the review? Like if it's a brake job or if it's a car purchase, a particular year, make, and model, isn't that stuff that's going to help Google send other people searching for the same stuff to our store?
Yes, absolutely. Getting keywords in the reviews is critical because the reviews are indexed. A common question is, are the replies to the reviews indexed? Unfortunately, they're not, but the reviews themselves are indexed. And if you want to see that yourself live too, just go into Google right now and search for, and I'll just say that this is a kind of a silly search, but say brake rotor repair near me or brake caliper repair near me, because then it will trigger and Google will make bold the word caliper and rotor, and you'll see those in the review results. You have to go into maps to see those, but that will show you. And again, if you choose the word best, it will not only pull out the word best out of reviews, it'll pull out synonyms, other words that mean the best. We love these guys. They're great. And so that's super important. Yes, when you're asking for a review, first of all, never ask for a review. Always ask for a 5-star review. And the reason is because you want to make sure you educate the person that, you know, is one of these folks that leaves a glowing review and then you see a 4-star and you're like, oh my God. And you call the person, you say, you know, how did we let you down? What happened? And they say, no, like we loved you. Didn't you read the review? You were perfect. And you say, well, we didn't get a perfect review. We got a 4. And they say something like, well, you know, I never give a 5. I always, you know, 4 to me is as good as it gets. And it kind of gives someone to stretch for. And, you know, you wouldn't really put it in these kind of terms, but the reality is in a 5-point scale, a 4 is an 80. That's a C-. And so, you know, if your kid comes home from the chemistry exam with a C-, you're like, did you really study? Did you prepare? You got an 80. And so you say to the dealer, like, or to the consumer, like, you know, it's a 5-point scale. So anything other than a 5 creates work for me. And the reality is, we wouldn't say this, of course, but the reality is if someone leaves you a 4-star, we would rather them not leave us a review at all. No, thank you. We would rather them, you know, remove that 4-star, leave us a 5 or nothing. And so that's the key. Ask for a 5. Paul, do we take care of everything for you today? George, we love it here. We come here. I service with you every several months. We've been here for 4 years. And you say, would you mind leaving me a 5-star review? And then shut up. You know, don't say it. And wait for them to come back. And if they come back and they say, well, you know, I've never really written a review. That's not my thing. I don't even know what to say. You say it's easy. Just the year, make, model of the car you brought in for service, and then all the things we did for you, and then what you liked about us. You know, who you dealt with, who you liked. And if you bought a car, year, make, model of the car you bought, where you drove from, and then, you know, what you liked about us. And that where you drove from is a nice one, because then you get a good geocode, you know, into your review. You know, we drove all the way from Goshen, Ohio, and we bought this F-150, and we just loved dealing with Paul, and he was fantastic. These guys are the best.
I'm going to give you guys guys and gals some homework. All right. I want you to go and look at your Google My Business page and look at your Google reviews. Now, here's where you can leverage artificial intelligence. I want you to look for a 90-day period of time. click on more for anything that has a review written. Now what you're going to do is you're going to copy all those reviews for 90 days, and you're going to paste them into a prompt that you put in artificial intelligence. And the prompt that you're going to create is, please do a sentiment analysis of the following reviews. Tell me what the consumer sentiment is. Tell me what the dealer response sentiment is. Tell me, are we trending upwards or downwards? And what are the notable key phrases or key words that are mentioned in those reviews? That will then put that into the AI, hit enter, and that will give you a nice report of exactly what you just asked it for. Most important is, George just spoke about certain words will send more people to you, right? Because it's relevant to what you had done. So look at those keywords and key searches, and what you'll find is when you go into your Google Analytics and you look at what terms people use to find you, they're not necessarily going to match up. So if we know 500 people came to us and did this specific search, is it not logical that new people moving into the area are going to do a similar search to those, George?
Sure. Yeah, sure. Makes perfect sense. And Google will show you some of those searches, so you can see those in their reporting.
Yeah. So here's the easiest part. George said it's really easy to get a review, right? Year, make, and model, what they had done. If you know what the search terms are that people are watching for, now you can make it easy for them. The first thing you want to ask them is, let's say if it's brake service near me, or I'm just going to make it up. Hey, George, was this not the best brake service near you, like ever?
Yes, it was the best.
And throw in a couple of keywords of what you had done. And now, and they're going to acknowledge, yes, yes. So now is when you're going to ask them, hopefully you have a QR code to make it easier to go to. You're going to ask them, hey, would you do me a favor? Sure, what's that, Paul? Here, open up your camera app. Point it at this right here. Boom. The minute they hit it, the Google thing comes up with 5 empty stars. I hope I've done a good job for you, and can you help me with a 5-star Google review? And George, don't overthink it, man. You just said it was the best brake job near me. We did your brake pads and rotors, whatever the key words are, that's it. Why don't you just share that and put my name next to it? That's it. How hard is that?
Yeah.
So now you get the review immediately, and you get it SEO rich. And how much did that cost?
$0.
Nothing. Aren't we looking to cut costs but expand reach? So yeah, that's a great thing. Now, what about Google Ads? That's expensive from everybody I talked to. What are some best practices around Google Ads?
Yeah, I think Google Ads for me, just in the last couple months, has just become more inefficient than maybe the entire time I've been in automotive. And some of it's really, really disappointing, and most of it's centered around Performance Max. So Performance Max is Google's model, advertising model that they rolled out a number of years ago. And unfortunately, whenever a product like performs really well, they tend to roll it into Performance Max. And so our VLA ads, the auto industry had one of the most promising products that we've ever had, the VLA, the vehicle listing ads. They performed fantastic, and dealers were pouring money into them. And then September of 2023, Google put them into Performance Max. And ever since then, the most successful agencies really have to take kind of a hacker mentality to it, because Performance Max is where Google blindfolds you and then says, now go and spend your paid search dollars. And so I know I'm off topic a little bit. Google Ads is where you buy keywords. That still has great visibility. And so honestly, we see kind of a retrenchment for the agencies that are paying attention away from Performance Max and more back into keywords, except for the things that you have to buy in PMax, and that is the VLA ads.
Do you do much with that, Joe?
Yeah, and so that's where we have a really good vendor partner that's exactly what George is talking about, the PMax. We put a little bit of money into that. When it starts to work, we can add some dollars to it. But the Google keywords and really making sure that we're maximizing what people are searching, and that's what we're putting most of our money towards, is what people search when they actually get cars now. And we have, again, it's a really good vendor partner that helps us with that, because a lot of this stuff, if that's what I did, I wouldn't have enough time in the day to do anything else. And I'm not even sure I would have enough time in the day if I worked 24 hours to do all the keywords that you would have to do for every single make and model that we have, especially when we're trying to sell used cars. And that's a lot of what people look for when they want to buy a used car. They're not going to come and land on our website and start browsing our used cars. They're going to go on Google and type in 2023 Cadillac Escalade. And if we've got a Cadillac Escalade, that's what we want to show, right? We can't expect them to come buy it if they don't even know we have it. So that's really where it's an AI interface that the vendor's using to build ads based on all the used cars we have. So that's really what, if I'm a dealer, that's what I'm looking for in a vendor is someone that can get all of our inventory out there, because again, there's not enough time in the day for a human to type out every single used car you have and all the different keywords that come up when people search.
It's a full-time job for a whole department, yet so many times it's one person that's charged with doing all of it.
That's
so now
right.
when you're running multiple campaigns, it's very important to know what's working and what's not working, and the way to do that is to set up the proper tags, correct?
That's it.
Yes,
Now,
and tracks. Just make, as Joe's saying, I mean, you got to look at the keywords. If the agency is not reviewing specific keywords, and as Joe said, what they search for and what the keyword you're buying, then I'd be worried.
What's a good best practice? How often are we looking at this? Are we looking at this daily, or are we looking at this every few days? What's the best way to do this?
So I spend way too much time looking at stuff like that, and I'm thinking George probably does too. That's one of the good things about the job I have. I don't have to help customers buy cars. And there's a lot of marketing directors that they also have to sell cars, or that's a big part of what they're doing is dealing with customers. And so I've got the time, and I do it at home a lot. But yeah, I mean, I'm looking multiple times a week at those reports in Google Analytics.
Does AI keep track of that as well, or is that more of a manual function?
I do it all manually. If there's an AI way to do that, I would love to hear it.
George, are you aware of such a thing?
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly there's ad platforms out there now, and that folks are running with that have AI that not only makes recommendations and alerts, but actually even moves the dollars around and changes those spends. It's that latter part that I don't really. For me, I'm not comfortable, just because based on the decisions we see the AI making, I wouldn't give AI my stock portfolio. I mean, I certainly would ask it to make recommendations, but I wouldn't let it make buys. And so for a dealer to give a blank check to an agency and let the AI make the buys, for me, I don't think we're there yet. But making recommendations, absolutely. And then we go through it and we do a reasonability test, because if the AI suddenly decides, hey, we're going to take all the money out of used cars and put it into a new car Facebook campaign, but it doesn't know that you haven't gotten deliveries and you're behind in your new car inventory. There's so many things on the car business side. You've got to run that through that filter. So anyway, so we see AI making a lot of wrong decisions if you give it the budget.
Now, it will get smarter over time, but the question is, do you want to pay for that learning? Do you want to put that AI agent through college and fund it, right? And this takes me back 10 years ago, probably more than that. I'd walk into a place and the manager spends so much time on inventory, managing inventory, making sure it's syndicated properly, and pricing, so much time. But yet there was software available at the time that would look at all that for them, price it, syndicate it, just do everything that they'd spent 40 hours a week doing, and do it automatically, right? But most of the managers were reluctant to turn on that automatic feature. Everything had to be reviewed, and probably for the very same reasons why you wouldn't unleash that today, right? It's just not there yet, but we can certainly leverage it. I'm a big believer, and John Fraser and I were just discussing this earlier today, and we have many other times. I'm a big believer in developing the people and leveraging the available technology. But if the technology isn't 100% there in certain areas, then, like you said, George, I wouldn't just trust my portfolio to it. I want to go to a couple of comments here before we get too far into it. Nathan Williams says, wow, getting a 4-star review is so small, is no small feat. Actually, it is. As I just laid out to you, you really have to work hard to make your customers happy. And he said, so you see, there's nothing wrong with admitting and fixing your mistakes if you've made any. There's not. You're human, right? If all they see is 100% 5 across the board and nothing negative, they're going to definitely think that it's gamed. And he says, exactly, because what's the point of having a 5-star review if we can never really attain it? After all, how long can we have something to always strive for if we can never really reach? It's pointless. And my good buddy, Michael Larkin, who is in the digital marketing space himself, he lives in it. He says, the cornerstone of getting the all-important traffic is keywords. The most valuable keywords are being found integrating the old tool with AI. Now there's no more guessing with keywords are more valuable. Go after those with AI tools that now results in days instead of months. And Nathan says, of course, if you know HTML code and you build your website yourself, you can always add the keywords in some kind of meta tag in the HTML. Not to be confused with keyword stuffing, right?
Yeah. Good points. I mean, there's great applications for AI. Coming up with keywords is a great one. I mean, SEO. I mean, having a conversation with Gemini about your website and how you rank for local or AI or traditional SEO and how you can improve. I mean, it'll give you answers. So there's great applications for it, but I wouldn't give it the blank check yet.
Yeah, that would be a little bit risky. Now, what about social media and digital advertising piece of it? Facebook has made some changes along the way, right? On their vehicle listing. What are some best practices on utilizing that platform?
I still find the carousel ads that land on VDP to outperform everything else. And so I think the Facebook VDP, the AI ads with the Facebook VDP was a bust because the call to action was always a messenger engagement. And unfortunately, those messenger engagements were typically very low quality on both sides of the conversation. And so we see the very best results from landing 100% on VDPs, deep link from the Facebook carousel ad directly to the VDP for both prospecting and retargeting. Our goal is, our benchmark is 0.75 of 1 percentage point. So that is that math is taking all the phone calls, forms, chats divided by sessions, and that should equal 0.75 or higher. And and great examples to find are those of those are the retargeting programs from the third party. So, Cars.com has Cars Social, Auto Trader has advanced ads, Car Gurus has RPM, Edmunds' entire product is Facebook retargeting. And so those platforms have shown the power of loading a custom audience, an automotive audience, into Facebook and then having those clicks come and land on VDPs. They shop, they click through photo carousels, and they convert. So one of our favorite channels.
Joe?
Yeah, that's exactly almost our entire social budget goes into Facebook carousel ads that land on the VDPs. And so and exactly what George said, we've tried everything. That's really the only thing that seems to sell cars. You're getting people to the vehicle that they're interested in, and then our conversion rate's actually over 2%. So it was performing really, really well. So that's where we keep putting more money every month.
Now we've got several platforms. We have Facebook, we have Instagram, we have TikTok. Is Facebook still like the top one, or did that fall a little bit?
So TikTok we've played around with. We constantly just get people from not anywhere near our local market clicking and engaging. So we've given up on it we've tried it and given up multiple times. But I was thinking it's something I'm going to look at again, because one of my connections is another Chevy store a couple hours away that she's been having some success with TikTok. So I was actually going to look into doing some more TikTok again here in the next couple of weeks. But I just don't see TikTok working all that well, and it hasn't so far. So I'm skeptical.
With Facebook, you've got demographics that's 30 to 60, right? That's pretty much the core of most people's business, right? And all this stuff you hear about, oh, people are getting off of Facebook. People are getting off it, but make no mistake about it, it's still a very solid venue as far as reaching the right audience, right? As far as TikTok is concerned, their whole algorithm is set around driving views, right? That's their big thing. So somebody will go on TikTok, they'll do some silly video and clap myself in the head, and I'll get 5 million views. I'm like, ooh, wow, I got 5 million views. That's great. But the thing is, to your point, and I wanted your opinion on it because you're in the store, right? I concur. I don't see huge conversion numbers. I think that all social media is important because with marketing, it's a consistent message across various platforms. And when I say various platforms, I even mean non-digital platforms, right? Back in the day, we had the Sunday Slickers. Remember those, George? Reviewing those? Mm-hmm. The big Sunday ads, right? Before everything went live?
Sure.
All right. And the digital gurus have convinced everybody that nobody looks at the newspaper anymore. Well, that's not 100% true, because there is an older demographic, of which I'm now kind of part of, but older than me, right? That still very much reads the local papers, right? So if you want to achieve ultra success, don't necessarily rule that out completely either, because there are those older folks that pick up the paper, right? We do, the way I look at marketing is it doesn't really matter what the product is. What you're trying to do is deliver a message about your business to an audience. So whether you're selling yarn, whether you're selling cars, whether you're selling sneakers, whatever it is, I think the principles are very similar. And while we certainly do a lot in the digital space, we create a lot of content, and we now ship product worldwide. And when for our retreats, we have people that fly in from around the country to come buy yarn, right? I mean, just think about that concept for a second. Ask any fixed ops leader, how's your tire business? And half of them will tell you that their customers won't drive across town to come buy tires from them that they need. But yet our customers that don't need the yarn will get on airplanes to fly to us or drive to us to come buy it, right? Think about that. That's crazy. So you want to be in all areas. Some print, depending on what the demographics are of your audience in your area, but definitely want to be in all the different platforms, because you might not catch them on Facebook. You might raise an awareness on TikTok that maybe gets their attention. All we're trying to do, aren't we just trying to drive them to our website or to our store with all of this? Joe, George?
Sure, yeah. Depending on the mission of the campaign.
So if we target each of these platforms, then it's very easy to do. Just do your research, say, hey, how can I best leverage TikTok? What can I expect out of that? And same thing with Instagram, and same thing with Facebook. When you take those separate pieces, and now when you're looking at your overall strategy, now you can set a plan for each one with, again, the goal is to drive them to your website or to your store.
And maybe the goal may be varied for each channel. You may have TikTok campaigns that are designed to build brand affinity. You may have others that are more down funnel. Some may be humor, solving problems, whatever it is, and then measuring that downstream. And click measurement just may not be that solid measurement. It may be
right.
Views and engagement, as you say.
Marketing's a long game, right? If you think you're going to walk over to the wall, flip the switch, and all of a sudden, because I put one video out, 40 people are going to come in, and of those 40, 20 of them are going to do a demo, and of those 20, 10 of them are going to buy cars, you might be disappointed. but you do have to leverage each platform. So if TikTok, for instance, is rapid engagement, Gen Z and younger millennials, are these people always the ones buying cars? Maybe, maybe not, but they can certainly influence the purchase.
Well,
Yes.
the part about the younger generation, the younger people, they're going to buy 8 or 10 or 12 more cars in their lifetime.
There you go.
They're going to buy 1 more, maybe 2 more. So that's why we keep going back to the idea of let's do something on TikTok, because they are going to buy a lot of cars in their lifetime.
So even if they're not necessarily converting now, it's a fertile ground for farming, isn't it?
That's right. And that's a lot of what I do with the dealership is we do a lot with barbecue, because we're just trying to do stuff out in the community to get people to know we're in the community, we're trying to become celebrities in the community, basically, with barbecue. So we go out and do stuff, and we know it's not going to, someone's not going to eat a barbecue lunch on Thursday and buy a car on Friday or Saturday. Maybe they'll buy one in 2 years, or maybe they'll buy one in a few months. And that's a lot of where dealers, they do not want to do that. If they're doing something on Thursday, they want it to result in a sale on Friday or Saturday. They don't want to wait 6 months or a year. So I'm very thankful that the dealer I work with, he likes the idea of doing stuff that is a long game. And
that's big picture thinking.
That's right. We're not going to be just selling Chevys for the next 2 days. We're going to be selling them for the next 20 years.
Now, I heard an interesting statement before about service marketing. Hey, dealers really do that? I'm being facetious because if you walk up to the GM and you say, how much did you spend on marketing for a variable? They could tell you usually to the dollar, right? But then you ask, how much did you spend on service marketing? What do you mean by that? Right? It's a different story. But we're back to a point where service is important again. Not that it ever wasn't important, but the focus of it being important. So tell me some of what, share with me some best practices on how to get more people into the service tribe. Either one of you jump with it.
I'll dive in. I mean, for me, I think the most trackable and the most effective is email marketing for service. The biggest reason is because it's leveraging your first party data, from your DMS, and it's using those classic categories of folks that bought that didn't service, people that haven't serviced in a number of months, or other sort of brackets. Email is the most trackable of all digital marketing there is, right? We know how many we sent. We know how many got delivered, how many got opened, how many got clicked through. Once they clicked, what did they do? What pages they go to? Did they convert? Did they come back in the following week? Whatever it is we want to know, we can know all that information. And our Canadian counterpart dealers can't believe that U.S. dealers don't run email marketing all the time because the Canadian laws are so restrictive on email, but there's so little restriction in the U.S. Why wouldn't dealers just pound that channel to death because it's so inexpensive? But the biggest challenge with service marketing is measuring success. And unfortunately, one of the most established tools out there is Xtime, and it doesn't, it strips all the UTM tagging out of GA4. So if you're using Xtime without some really strong outside programming, you're not going to know what drove that service appointment. So it makes it very difficult. However, if you're doing an email campaign, you can do a match, right? You can do a pattern match on the name or on the VIN if the VIN was part of the CDP or part of the database, and so you can know that and see how well that will succeed. But if you're doing service marketing, begin with the end in mind. You know how you'll report success.
And then if you offer particular specials, coupons, or codes, and like you said, there's trackability, right? Do you guys do much with email marketing, Joe?
Yeah, so because we're a GM store, we're part of the CSSR program, which is all email. I mean, that's what we're doing, and that's where a big bulk of our marketing and service is on the CSSR. And then the Google, this is where Google Business Profile is huge. You got to have all your services in there, especially in Florida, where new people move here every day. And so they're searching oil change near me, suburban tire rotation or suburban brakes. So they're searching for brake services, for tire services, and you got to have that business profile because that's how they're going to find you. And that's probably 90% of what we do is just making sure our Google business is updated and a lot of email. And
you know, what I find really interesting is that sometimes the easiest is something we overlook, right? We all have Fort Knox in our stores, and that Fort Knox is our DMS that contains thousands upon thousands, if not 10,000s upon 10,000s of customers that are our loyal customers, okay, that like us, that shop with us, and we have the ability to extract from the DMS who our best customers are. And we can leverage those people to deliver our messaging, right? But there's even more to the DMS that I don't hear anybody necessarily talking about or doing, and that's social mining. When you combine your DMS data with AI programs that do social mining, okay, now what I have is I have a smart bomb. Now what I have is a tool that can take a look at my database, scrape data online out of social platforms, not necessarily conversations there. You know, nobody's picking up, hey, Joe, my wife's having a baby next week. And you know that Sentra we bought a couple of years ago, I think we're going to need a little bit more space, right? But there's software available today that does the scraping of the data that will be able to get you into some of these conversations that people are having, that they're excited about the new baby that's coming, about this change in life. Oh, I just got hired as this big cheese at this company, where it can proactively send out targeted campaigns to bring value to those people. Have you heard of some of that stuff, George?
No, it sounds fascinating. How do you match the profile? How does it go back and match, or does it match the
phone?
Specific profile?
The phone is listening to everything. So there's data service. You can get a lot of data that was not available 5 years ago now, and it's because our phones listen to everything we say.
It's crazy.
Do you load it as a custom audience into Facebook, or how do you execute on it? What do you do?
Yeah, I mean that part. I assume that you can do that part with. I know you can, because mention something, anything, you're just talk out loud after you get off the call.
Yeah.
Say something, and you'll see it in your Facebook.
Yeah.
And it's there. They're listening. So there's all these ads that pop up because of stuff you talk about, because you didn't check the box on AT&T to not share your data when you signed up for your cell phone plan. And that's
everybody just agrees. They don't check anything. So they opt into all these things. What's amazing is I'm a big fan of the polo clothing, right? And it knows where the polo store is that I go to regularly. It also knows that if I'm going to New Haven, that there's a polo store on the way to New Haven. So, and I'm in normal conversations, you know, I got a thing for food. So periodically I go to New Haven for New Haven style pizza, or as they're referred to as New Haven Habits. When I have that conversation, whether it be on the phone or in-house or at somebody's business or at their home, guess what pops up on my phone, George and Joe? Coupon for the polo store, because it knows I'm going to be driving by there. I have friends that do software that have these type of sniffer programs. And I was blown away when I heard about it. You know, so there's so much more we can do, but we tend to overlook the DMS, which has all of the customers that have been spending money with us for many, many years. How much digging do you think the average store does in their DMS for, you know, campaigns?
Yeah, very, very little.
Not bad. And Joe, those are you mentioned yours are through tier 2, right? So the DTG Octane, is that what those are? Tier 2 through Chevy, your email campaigns?
Yeah,
The Outsell does those for Chevy?
yeah, and there's a couple of the CSSR program does email basically every single person in our database that they're allowed to email every.
And those do really well. For a lot of Chevy dealers, they may not even be aware of those. If you're not aware of those, check at the tier 2 level and ask about it. It's DTG, David Thomas George. That's how it's branded. The UTM tagging will come through on those email campaigns,
yes.
and they do pretty well. So,
And that's not just Chevy, right? That's all GM dealers?
it may be. I think we've only seen them branded that way for Chevy. Sometimes tier 2 pays for it, and then
they do usually. So that's one where you're giving your data to that company, and a lot of dealers don't want to do that.
Okay.
But that's the one downside of those campaigns. And you do have to give them your data. It's not your data at that point. It's shared data among all the stores.
Okay.
There's no type of language that can be written in that it's only shared for you?
No, because it's a bulk. Like every dealer ends up, and actually if we give them our data and there's another Chevy store that is there technically, the person lives in their PMA, the branding on the mail piece goes to that dealer.
Oh.
Tier 2 Chevy and Ford are doing the same thing. They're also doing it on Google Business Profile. In Google Business Profile, there's some PMax ad slots, and they're buying ad slots for, like, if you do like GM brake repair near me, you can try that in your market. And if you see an ad in Maps that says GM, it may look like New Smyrna Chevy, but when you click on it, it goes to Chevy, and then they can search for competitors. It's not a very good tier 3. It's not very pro tier 3, but it's I'm not sure you can do much about it.
Pro GM.
Pro GM.
So it sounds like there's probably a bigger incentive to do your own in-house stuff.
You'd love to, but again, it goes back to Performance Max. So in the map pack, we talked about the Google My Business map pack. There's one ad slot on the top of the map pack. That makes it 4. 1 paid and then 3 organic. And then if you click over to Maps, there's 2 slots. And those are both PMax. And again, I hate to pick on Google. Hopefully they're watching. 2 years ago, that was an individual product called local search ads. They performed incredibly well. You could buy them all by themselves. You could buy an ad on Maps, and we would say, "Thank you, Google. That's such a useful thing." And it was doing so well that they rolled it into the PMax Happy Meal bundle, and now you have to buy the bundle, and you don't know when you're showing up in Maps. And so that's the downside of it, right? I mean, why doesn't Google sell individual products that help advertisers versus put those successful products into bundles and force advertisers to buy remnant ads on kids' games and Google Drive and Gmail? And that's the problem with PMax. It's a happy meal of things that dealers would sometimes buy and a whole bunch of junk that dealers would never buy, but Google has trouble selling those ads, so they bundle it into PMax. And so just be very suspect of PMax. Ask to see all the ads, ask to see the landing page, because that's where you can see the bots and you can see the problems in PMax is looking at the landing page. If your VLAs don't land 95% on VDPs, you have a problem. If half of them land on homepage, you have a big problem. And so push your agency there.
Isn't there a way to filter out the bots?
No, I mean, Google can. I mean, you can certainly on the ad placement side, you definitely can limit the number of bots by playing around with the asset groups. Google has now rolled out, in the last 30 days, they've rolled out a number of different new PMax tuning opportunities where now you can see the placement. So you'll be able to see. Yeah. We've seen VLA ads placed on Weather Channel, Yahoo, all these really spammy. And so now you can hey, never Weather Channel. Never. So now you can do exclusionary sites. You can put negative keywords in. Always put brand in for VLAs. Always put your brand in as a negative keyword for VLAs. And people listening would be like, what did he just say? A brand as a negative for VLAs? Why would I ever have to do that? I mean, a VLA should just be someone searching for a year, make, model. Well, unfortunately, Google will land on brand. We'll take branded clicks and use your VLA dollars for those. So it's just really awful. You got to look at it and you got to push your agency for that. Sorry to talk so long.
How many hours a day job is that, George?
Yeah, it's just constant. And the last 45 days have just been an onslaught of just more of that. So, just look, if suddenly your VLA started converting at 50%, Like if you get 10 clicks, 5 of them do a click to call, be suspect, right? Those may not be real click to calls. Maybe you want to get your DNI provider, like, Marchex or Call Review or one of the call providers, to set up DNI, dynamic number insertion tracking, and compare your dynamic phone calls to your click to calls. And if you see a big discrepancy, then maybe you have bots that are hyper firing these click to calls from PMAX. I know we're way in the details, but for the folks that are paying attention, that's where you go look for those bot signals. Look for hyper fired click to calls on VLA ads, more than a reasonable amount.
No, but this is good because it lets people know that it's not just creating an ad, right? You're not just working on getting the people inside of it. At the same time, you're working on keeping the wrong people out of it, right? It's kind of a yin and yang that you have to do this, that I don't think anybody has enough time for, quite frankly. You got a store selling 200 cars a month, servicing 3,000 ROs through customer-facing ROs a month. That's a lot of work. I think we need to clone like several Joes in order to make it work in most stores.
I agree.
Are you seeing some of the same challenges, Joe, in what you're doing?
Yeah, that's why you got to use vendors at this point, because there's just no way to do all this stuff. That you can't do it. You're exactly right. There would need to be 5 of me, and most stores are not going to put that kind of budget into marketing. It doesn't result in immediate car deals because it doesn't make sense. And the vendors, if you're working with good vendors, they can take a lot of that heavy lifting off and handle a lot of this for you.
But it's very important to be a part of that process, right? Yeah. Absolutely. You don't become a receivable, right? You want to have regular meetings. You want to see the data, and you want to have access to that data, and you want to have somebody that you can ask to go through. Okay, so tell me how it performed. This is what we've spent. Tell me what it's done. What have you done? What have you done to promote business? What have you done to keep BS from flooding our data? What have you done? It's very important to be very active. So I guess for the smaller stores out there, you need to make an investment, right? Marketing should not be an afterthought. It should be everything. Let me go to a couple of comments here. Nathan says, "Don't worry, Paul. I recently reached the big 5-0 myself." You're a young one. 50. I remember when I was 50, we walked 5 miles in the snow. Oh, no, that was another story. And he says, and TikTok is where the bulk of younger demographics are right now. There are people that are, more mature demographics, we'll say, that are also watching a lot of TikTok videos, okay? As a matter of fact, I go to the dry cleaner that I go to, the guy's got to be well into his 80s. And he has the corniest jokes, even cornier than my jokes, okay? So that's bad. But he says, "Oh, can I share something funny with you, Paul?" I says, "Sure, what do you got?" He takes out his smartphone and he busts open his TikTok. This is a guy well into his 80s, and he starts showing me some funny TikTok videos.
Was it like dry cleaning humor? Was it like its own hashtag with all kinds of fun?
No, it was actually somewhat inappropriate, but nonetheless,
Inappropriate dry cleaning humor.
So, you have to know your audience. Steve Apicella, I just missed him in Laguna Beach by like a couple of days. Can you believe that? One of these days, our flights are going to intersect and we're going to sit down again for another meal. He says, "Are great dealers trying to build OEM brand loyalty or dealer loyalty? Both can and should actively occur together. The two are not or should not be in conflict with each other. How it's simultaneously achieved is in everyone's best interest. Great content and guests as always. Hashtag SNL Paul." Hey, thanks a lot, Steve. I appreciate that, man.
I agree. Spend those dollars educating the dealers. The very best thing tier 1 and tier 2 could do would be to educate dealers to use those dollars smarter. To educate the dealers how they should run those local search ads, those PMAX ads for fixed ops or whatever it is, and leverage all their data. The OEMs, lend their data to tier 3 to be able to leverage, as you're saying, Paul, around audiences.
Yeah. Michael Larkin says, everybody like a bit of corn every once in a while. Well, the hour comes really quickly. Are there any final thoughts, Joe? Anything you want to share before we go?
No, I mean, this has been great. Great conversation. I like talking with George. It's I was taking notes when he first started talking because it was that good of that good of content from George. So love doing this. And if anyone watching has questions, I'm LinkedIn, so you can ask anything you want. I'll answer the best I can. And again,
Thank you. George, final thoughts. But before you give the final thoughts, if you would be so kind, because your books are ultra valuable. If you could put links to your books in the LinkedIn thread, that would be greatly appreciated, because I'd be willing to bet there are a lot of stores that do not have their Google My Business page optimized or properly set up. And your book takes them through the steps in layman's terms. You're also tagged on here, so anybody that has questions, when I say George is the expert in this, I mean George is the freaking expert in this. He knows, he lives, sleeps, breathes Google and analytics. So he's the guy that can help you with more things than you can even imagine. So if you're not connected with any of us on here, by all means, whether it's live now or on the replay, George, finish us out.
Yes, I will. Yes. So, and if you, I'll put the links in there. If you go to Amazon, I have a unique name. So if you just search for my name or even my last name, you'll see all the books should pull up. I also launched 2 or 3 months ago a free YouTube channel with education. Currently, the channel is all about GA4. There's 13 or 14 videos up there. They're all really short. So if you go to YouTube and just search for my name or just search for Google Analytics car dealer, it should all pull up.
Put a link in there.
I'll put a link in there as well.
To the channel as well. And the other piece, GMBspy.
Yes, GMBspy is a free Chrome extension. Allows you to spy on your competitor category. So if you're being outranked by a competitor, it may be due to a category, and so you can go in there and spy on those. But that's a free Chrome extension.
And you're up to how many users now?
32,000 weekly. Yeah, it's
love it, man.
Lunch.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Stay on after we go off here for a moment. Thank you very much. To those that watch it live, thank you. To those that will watch it on the replay, thank you. I hope you have a safe and successful next week, and we'll see you next week on Sunday Night Live. Don't go away, gentlemen.